who are you reaching out to? And I want you here. I'm wondering where that struggle is.
That was written about my friend who lost her baby. I had several friends in a very short span of time have a few stillbirths, several miscarriages, but actually several who delivered living children who died after just a couple days. And there were a couple stories in particular that were kind of the catalyst behind writing the song. And one of them was a little baby named Gabriella. One was a little boy named Ewan. Another was a set of twins that the little girl died after 3 days, and the little boy, I think it's a boy, because it was not a family that I knew. It was a family that were good friends with some friends of mine, and they were talking about it. But the other twin died just a few days after. And I was like, so she carried twins full term, and then after several days lost one, and then several days lost the other. And I, having had young children myself, and just not being able to wrap my mind around the hurt. And so what's interesting is after I wrote the song, while we were mixing the record, my friend Sarah delivered a little boy on September 30th, and on October 28th he died, and so he was 28 days old. And it changed my life, because the night before he died, she'd been at the hospital every single day. She'd left for dinner one time, and I think that's it. Like she was there constantly, round the clock. And the night before he died, she had called me and she said, "I'm just exhausted tonight, and he's not doing very well." And I said, "Would you want me to come up and just bring some Oreos or some donuts or some coffee and just burn the midnight oil? Like, I'll totally stay up with you." And she was like, "Would you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm really rested. Jeremy's got the kids. I'm good." And so I went down there. I ended up bringing a box of donuts and just hanging out with her. And she was, you could tell she was so tired, but she just couldn't leave his side. And I said, "Well, what?" I mean, he was in a critical care unit, so he had his own 2 nurses and his 2 parents, and then there was just about no one else allowed. And they would let one person in periodically, a family to visit or a friend. But it was very, very closed off. And so I was in there with her, visiting him. Very tiny guy. His name is Justice Micah. And so I said, "Why don't you sleep, and I will sit right next to him. I will hold his fingers, and I just won't leave. Like, if I have to go to the bathroom, that'll be about it. But I'm not going to leave him, I promise." And so she's like, "If you'll promise," because like she needed because her husband had already went to lay down because he could not hold his eyes open, and she laid down, and the only way she could really rest is if she had confidence that no one was leaving. Now the nurses are there, but she wanted like one of her people with him. And I'm sure it was God-given, but I had a ton of energy. I didn't feel sleepy at all. And I sang like my whole lullaby record to him just over, and I would just go song after song after song, and I would just keep singing really softly and keep singing. And
so awesome.
The next day, they had all kinds of things happen to where they had to start unplugging things, because it was actually, if they don't unplug this that's helping his heartbeat, then it'll actually destroy his liver or kidneys, or it was just I'm certainly not explaining it right, but anyway, it was evident that he would be passing away that day. And so everyone is cleared out and sent, all the family, all the friends are called, and they're put into a waiting room. And she asked me to stay and take pictures and video of the whole event.
Wow.
And so I had one in each hand. I photographed and filmed him literally passing from this life into the next. I watched his eyes. I saw the screen flatline. I have never witnessed something like that before. And how she was never really able to hold him, and so in that moment she could just pick him up because he was gone. And I've never cried so much. Well, when my husband and I separated, I definitely shed some tears, but other than that, I just wept and wept and wept. And the grace that I saw in her, and the strength and the courage and the confidence she wasn't bitter, she wasn't angry, she wasn't questioning God. She was just like, I got to be his mother for 28 days as opposed to never being his mother. And she was devastated, but there was just... So anyway, I've dedicated the song to her because after I wrote it, inspired by these real life situations, I actually experienced myself in the flesh watching that happen. And so it was a song to young, mothers to say, even if their child was 5 or 10 or 20, of it's okay to want them here. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to question God. It's okay to be angry. What we do with that, like, do we get mad and become a bitter person? Or do we get mad and decide we're going to let this make us stronger? And so she's definitely a person that felt the pain of it, but she's only allowed herself to become better through it. And so she's reached out to so many mothers since then, and she's a real advocate for that. The hospital that he passed away at, she visits it regularly.
Wow.
In that same area to go to other mothers and say, I have been where you are, and I'm not sure if your child will live or not, but I just want you to know if they don't, I'm living proof that you will be able to get out of here and breathe and live. And so she is just such an advocate for showing them.
Wow.
Because she just doesn't want someone to turn their back on God in that moment. She's like, because I feel like it's an opportunity for God to be seen in a way that he never otherwise would be for that person. And she said, and it's like, he could do something so massive in your life through that pain, or you can let it destroy you. And so it's just amazing. So I wrote it, and there's a line in the second half of the first verse where it says, your hand so small held a strand of my hair so strong. All I could do was keep believing. Was that enough? And there's a picture of baby Ewan on their blog about his life, that his little tiny newborn fingers are literally grasping her hair. And it's, if anyone is familiar with newborns, when they get a hold of something in their hand, they hold on super tight, like it's like a steel grip because they're little tiny fists. And so she blogged about how strong he was holding tightly to her hair, but yet how incredibly weak and frail and sick he was. And she had a photograph of it, and that just stuck in my brain. And I was like, I'm putting that in the lyric. I'm just going to put that in the lyric. So that's I Want You Here.